Hello from the beanbag. Welcome to today's Daily Encouragement with Naomi. Thanks for joining me. Today, I'm just going to follow on a wee bit from the video that went up on Sunday. I'm going to talk a bit more about forgiveness because there was one person that is also really important to forgive that I forgot to mention. Right, let's do this. As I said, I totally forgot in my last video to talk about someone in our journey that is really important to forgive. And that person can often be the hardest person to forgive. You may have guessed it already, but that person is ourselves. You need to forgive yourself. I need to forgive myself, because I know for me that in my journey so far of healing from my trauma, it has been incredibly hard to forgive myself, because when trauma happens, we tell ourselves things that a lot of the time aren't true. And one of those things is that we blame ourselves, even in situations where it is not our fault at all. Like if you, for example, look at sexual abuse. Sexual abuse is never the victim's fault. The one that has been abused, it is never ever their fault. But I know for me, I blamed myself, and I think a lot of people do. And so when it comes to forgiveness, we really need to be kind to ourselves and show the same grace and love and compassion and empathy to ourselves that we show to others. And forgive ourselves for believing that it was your fault, for telling yourself that if I didn't go to a certain place, or if I didn't do a certain thing, it wouldn't have happened. I suspect that there may even be certain personality traits that I have that have come out of my trauma and have come out of, I haven't forgiven myself for something, so I've taken something on and it's become part of me. Because as children, we are very good recorders but very poor interpreters. So when things happen, we're often very good at recording that in our brain, knowing the details, knowing what happened, but very poor, because our brains are immature, at interpreting what happened or the situation around it and people's motives and all that kind of stuff. So therefore we take on that poor interpretation, and that in a lot of ways becomes our worldview or our view of the events that happened. And I think a lot of times we even let that become our truth of the situation. And it is sometimes difficult to even know what truly happened in that situation unless God fully reveals the whole situation and the whole truth about what happened in there, or if there was someone else that can go, no, this is actually what happened, or no, you're a wee bit off there, but this is what it was. And also I know for me that, a lot of the details of the abuse and the bullying now are quite sketchy or vague, because I was a child and it happened years ago. And I also have quite bad memories of my childhood, as in I don't remember a lot of my childhood. It is quite vague and patchy, the memories that I have. And that potentially was a way that I coped with what had happened. And that works for a while, but there comes a time where we actually need to release ourselves from our own judgment, from our own disappointment, from our own expectations that we had in that situation or in our childhood or whatever it was. We need to release ourselves from that in order to get free and to move on. And forgiving ourselves is just as important as forgiving the person that caused the abuse or the grief or the pain or whatever the situation is. If somebody else is involved, it is just important to extend forgiveness out that way, but also to extend forgiveness in this way to ourselves. That can often be harder and a lot scarier because we actually have to stop and look at the situation in depth, but also look at ourselves and look and see what we've believed and taken on and accepted from the trauma because we haven't forgave ourselves and we've carried guilt and shame and condemnation on ourselves for probably years and years and years, because guilt and shame and condemnation don't come from God. There is no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus. He doesn't condemn. He lovingly convicts our hearts. We and others are the ones that condemn. You know, I think we all know that we are our own worst critics, our own worst condemners, our own worst haters. You know, so many of us don't need others to condemn or to hate or to criticize or anything like that, because we do it all to ourselves. Absolutely do it all to ourselves. And I think that when you've walked through a lot of stuff, there's quite a lot of condemnation and guilt and shame there, because we use it, I think, sometimes to, in some weird way, get through what is happening at the time. But then it carries on for years and years afterward. And then we get to a point where you're like, oh, why do I believe that? Or why do I carry that like that? Or why is my worldview this? And I think a lot of the times it could potentially be because we've carried unforgiveness towards ourselves. And we've gone, well, it was my fault. Yeah, if I hadn't done that, or if I hadn't gone there, if I hadn't said that, or wound them up, or something like that, it wouldn't have happened. And I think particularly as children, when maybe the abuse comes from an adult, particularly a parent, we either really protect them and take it all on ourselves, or we outright hate them and are angry with them and you know, don't want anything to do with them. There may be other variations of that, but just in my experience, yeah, I think that's kind of what happens. And yeah, so if you're the one that kind of defends the parent or the adult, you take it on yourself and you go, oh, they grew up with this is their background, this is their story, so they didn't mean it, or they didn't know what they were doing, so therefore we internalize it and blame ourselves for their behavior or for their abuse or their harsh words or whatever it is that happened. We, I think, often internalize it and go, oh, it happened because of that, so it's my fault, or I upset them, so it's my fault. So I encourage you today, let's be people that not only boldly and courageously forgive others, but boldly and courageously forgive ourselves, no matter whether the blame is rightfully on you or not, because there are situations where, rightfully we are the ones to blame, but it doesn't matter. We still need to forgive ourselves. We still need to love ourselves enough to forgive ourselves and to be able to boldly say, oh, I screwed up there. I didn't get that right. Or, I told myself that. I've been telling myself this lie for all these years. So I need to stop telling myself that lie and to forgive myself for believing that lie and for accepting it as the truth. Let's read, actually, to finish off, Joshua 1:9. So reading from the Good News Translation, it says, "Remember that I have commanded you to be determined and confident. Do not be afraid or discouraged, for I, the Lord your God, am with you wherever you go." Go. Go. I commission you to go and to boldly and courageously forgive yourself today and every day that something comes up that you need to forgive yourself for. Be bold. Be courageous. Do not be afraid. God knows it. He knows and he understands. And he's waiting with arms open wide to accept you. Because he's not condemning you. He's lovingly convicting. And he just wants to help you get through this and to get free. And that is also my goal, is to get as free as I can so that I can be the best version of myself that I can be. And I can encourage you and help you to do the same, to pursue godliness in the form of inner beauty. Have a fantastic day. Thanks so much for watching. Love you all. Bye.